Inventory is an issue with Tesla? Really? Let's look into it. If you like my channel, subscribe, become a patron, follow me on Twitter, whatever. Thank you. So we hear a lot of voices everywhere that Tesla is an inventory and a demand issue. I talked about it in my last video that you may want to watch. But this time I'd like to give a little bit a better picture about the inventory story. So if you look at the global numbers, we have in the automotive industry days to supply or inventory levels of about 30 days to 120 days. So what does that mean? This is the days of finished inventory, because you also have semi-finished inventory, and actually raw material is also considered a sort of inventory. But here we talk about the finished goods, which are the vehicles, obviously, in that case. So finished inventories in the automotive industry, if you look at different brands, it differs in between almost 30 days and 120 days. So in other words, these are the average days a product is, after it's finished, coming out of production, shipped to a customer. So imagine up to 120 days average. That means that some cars are standing longer, others are standing shorter, but this is an average number. And everybody is concerned about Tesla in that respect, because they say they hear the stories around demand and inventory is increasing. And if you look at the number from Tesla, it's actually 2 weeks, 14 days, which is way, way, way below average. So what I'm trying to say here is, just if you use this KPI, which is often used to describe finished goods inventory, Tesla is best in class. There's really nothing to discuss here at all. And by the way, as I said in my previous video that you may want to watch, inventory is tied up capital. So considering the interest rates in the country you're living in, this costs you money, assuming that the automotive company we talk about has debt and needs to borrow the money from a bank, which is not the case with Tesla. So with Tesla, it's even worse, or even for the automotive industry worse. For Tesla, it's fantastic because the situation is like that they deliver the car before they have to pay their suppliers. In other words, they are making money on behalf of the suppliers in terms of producing, while this product has been, or this capital has been borrowed to Tesla. So what I'm trying to say here, overall global numbers, I mean, in terms of, inventory, look awesome, fantastic. And there's really nothing to criticize here. It's just a fantastic number. But still, some people believe there's an issue. I can't see one. And if we look at the inventory levels from Tesla in the US and Europe, there's just no cars available at all. I mean, we talk about, 30, 40, 50 weeks. In other words, long story short, I don't see any inventory issue with Tesla here. What we see is record low inventory levels in the US and in Europe. In China, we don't know really, but actually there's been 2 interviews coming out which I believe are pretty interesting. One is from Grace Teo, a VP from China, and she said actually in an interview that there are 3 factors that play into the pricing policy of Tesla, which is costs, demand, and competition. And she elaborated and saying, in terms of costs, just a few months ago, we've been increasing the prices from the Tesla vehicles, and we've been decreasing them now again to actually almost the same level. So in other words, there's not really a decrease to record low in terms of Tesla is doing this just because there's a demand issue. Maybe they have, I don't know. But she indicated that, or she said clearly, that price adjustments are made based on, the costs they have in production. In other words, if inflation goes up, prices go up. Raw material costs go down, prices go down. And we've seen Tesla doing that over and over again, quite frequently. And nobody complained about it, but all of a sudden, this seems to be a big issue. Nevertheless, I agree, there are other companies out there, BYD is a good example, which have competitive products, NIO, you name it, Polestar. And, they are selling their vehicles, obviously, also quite well in China, for instance. But if you look at the registration numbers from Tesla in China, it's still a record in the last quarter. So yes, you can claim it's not that big in terms of increase, which is true, but you can't claim that they have a severe issue. Obviously, they try to encourage more buyers, and we've seen from different media reports that in the first day when they reduced the pricing of some models, they had about 10,000 new orders coming in. Other people speak about 30,000 new orders coming in just a few days. There's been even people talking about 70. So a couple of numbers flying around, but it seems to be consistent in terms of information flow that there's been a high increase in order inflow. And if you look at the web page, you can see that previously it was 1 to 4 days, and now it's 1 to 4 weeks, and now it's 2 to 5 weeks until you really get, after you ordered, your vehicle. In other words, waiting time is longer, which is a very clear indication that inventory is not going up. In other words, a backlog of orders is going up, and Tesla is quite okay in terms of demand and production. Could it be better? Who knows? I mean, having too much orders, like for instance with the Cybertruck, people talk about 1.3, 1.4 million orders for the Cybertruck. It's not a good story because people are restless. Finally, they are angry about the companies that can't deliver, and that is again a negative. So some of you remember that we all hear, over years, that Tesla can't deliver, and that's a problem. And now they can deliver, and that's all of a sudden a problem again. So I don't see that. So in addition to Grace Teo, the VP from China, with the interview, we had also an interview from a German lady, from a press lady even, called Catherine Shearer. And she said, and a few days ago we had in the media reports about there's been a lot of cars from Tesla Model Y standing at an airport in Berlin, and this is an indication that inventory is going up. And Catherine clarified with the Wall Street Journal, with the Wall Street media, that this is not true. All the vehicles standing there at the airport have been standing there waiting for being transported to Taiwan. So these vehicles had an order already in place, because Tesla doesn't ship any finished goods around the globe just for fun. If there is no customer, no order, they wouldn't ship it. And this 3,000 Model Ys had a customer that's been waiting, and there's been just logistics issues like I described in my last video. So this is another indication that the story around Tesla's a huge demand problem, Tesla's a huge inventory issue, is not really true. We are in a situation where a lot of uncertainty is in the market. Some people just cancel their orders because they don't know if a recession is coming, and they just don't want to spend that money. This is happening probably a little bit more frequent, more often now than before. But this is not an underlying financial or business issue for Tesla that has a margin that is so big that they can reduce it to a level that demand will exponentially go up, and they can't deliver then again, which is not a good situation to be in. And again, in Europe, I don't see any inventory issues at all. We have just the Model S plate and the Model X plate coming to Europe. The order book is now open for the long range, I think it is, Model S and Model X. The new version, the 2023 version, which is awesome. So I expect a lot of orders are coming in there too. People actually complain about the high prices. So to all who are thinking that Tesla has an issue with orders, prices for the Model S, I think I've seen in euros 127k, which is quite something. If they would have an issue with demand for these vehicles, pricing point would be much, much lower. So I think in a few weeks, in a few months, we will laugh about the story that we hear right now. And I just would like to clarify this a little bit, that in my opinion, and I may be wrong, but in my opinion, I can't see a bigger underlying issue here with Tesla in terms of demand and inventory levels.